Good morning, good evening, or good night, whichever one it is for you, whichever one it is. I'm very glad you're here to join me for yet another book haul. I did buy more books. This is not something I usually do. I usually don't buy these many books. I don't know why I keep feeling the need to make that disclaimer, but just know this is very out of the ordinary. It's just I felt like treating myself a little bit, and these are the extensions of that. I have been waiting for some of these for quite a few weeks, and so I am so excited to share them with you because you guys made me so happy, because you gave me so many good tips and recommendations, and just talking to you about books, I cannot explain to you how fun I find that and how much it means to me, and you're so kind. And so I wanted to say thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And so without further ado, let's get right into it, because the first one on this list is Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse V. This is a book I've heard not as much about as you'd think, because I do think this is quite a staple classic of American literature. But yeah, I haven't heard that much about it. I just know it's amazing, or I think it's amazing. I am expecting to love it. It's supposed to be a very abstract kind of story about this man who was, I think, in World War II. I'm very unsure. Again, I stay away from any details I can when it comes to books, so my information is limited. I just know this is where the quote, "everything was beautiful and nothing hurt," comes from. And that is one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I need to know the story it's based in. I do think I'll be picking it up quite soon, to be honest. So yeah, that is Slaughterhouse 5. Next up, we have James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I always want to say that title wrong. I am currently still in the middle of Ulysses, which is incredible. I fell in love with James Joyce's writing reading that book. Sadly, I found out while in the middle of that book that this is the backstory of one of the main characters of Ulysses. And I kind of wish I'd known that before, because he's my favorite character of the story, and so I really would have liked to have more background information on him before I went into Ulysses. On the other hand, I think Ulysses can be read as a standalone completely. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing any information, and I think it'll make this one even more special, because getting to read the backstory of a character I've already fallen in love with will just be so awesome. I'm looking forward to it so much. It's made me even more excited about this one. This is just, as far as I know, the coming-of-age story of Stephen Dedalus, who's one of the main characters of James Joyce's Ulysses. Again, I've said that already. It's gonna be quite a different format from Ulysses, I expect. Yeah, I cannot wait to see more of what James Joyce is capable of. Then, of course, I also had to buy Dubliners by James Joyce. You can see a theme here. I like to buy a lot of books by the same author. I'm kind of obsessed in that way, because I just think you need to get more of an idea. You need to read several books by the same person in order to really understand where they're coming from, what they're doing with literature. And to me, one book by an author is never enough. I always need to know more. James Joyce, I now know I need to read everything that man has ever written. He's so incredible. And I haven't even finished my first James Joyce yet, so that tells you something about how much I love that guy. So yeah, of course, Dubliners is a collection of short stories that basically lack any plot or anything. It's just daily life in Dublin. It's a very Irish story in that way, and that is something that James Joyce liked to do. I like stories without a plot. I'm very much boring in that way. I love boring stories. I don't think this will be boring, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to offend any James Joyce fans out there. Just know I'm one of you guys. But yeah, that is Dubliners by James Joyce. Really looking forward to that one as well. My last James Joyce on this list, I had to buy Finnegan's Wake. I actually discovered this by reading the back of Ulysses, that this is sort of, it says Finnegan's Wake is his masterpiece of the night, as Ulysses is of the day. So I love Ulysses, and so of course I need to read Finnegan's Wake. Ulysses is a very difficult book to read, but I'm already looking forward to this so much, even though I've heard there's so many book clubs out there who do this thing where each month they read 1 or 2 pages of Finnegan's Wake, and they spend decades reading this book because it's just James Joyce has this very experimental way of writing. And in Ulysses, you can clearly tell, but Finnegan's Wake is an even later work. It's his magnum opus in a way. I think both of these, Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake, I think in some ways they're connected in the sense of what he's doing with them. I think they add to each other, at least that's what I've heard. And this is supposed to be really interesting because, again, you follow this very small amount of time, but again, it's quite a long book. It's less long than Ulysses, but still it's a long book, and it's entirely stream of consciousness. James Joyce really loves to invent words and sentences, and he loves to skip from things, and he loves to just really experiment with his language. And this book ends on the same sentence it starts from. The first and the last sentence are the same, so the story basically is circular. You can basically start reading it again once you finished it. And so I don't know, I appreciate people who try to do something new with writing, with words so much, and James Joyce is maybe the most extreme example of that I've ever known or discovered thus far in my reading journey. So yeah, Finnegan's Wake, incredible. Now we have another James Baldwin, because in the last video I showed you I was gonna be reading Just Above My Head and Giovanni's Room. I'm almost certain I'm gonna love his books. And so I had to buy Another Country, which is also one of the ones I've heard the most about from him. We start out with this musician, and it's about nightlife in New York. It's a portrait of people and of life at the time James Baldwin was writing. His writing seems to always be very socially critical. It seems to be very character-driven. You follow the nightlife and explicit sort of interactions between people. I'm not quite sure what to expect here. It's not the kind of story I usually gravitate towards, but it's James Baldwin, and I've heard so many good things about it. Then we have a little bit of a different kind of vibe, because I just had to buy If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I love Shakespeare. I just love his plays so much. I've read quite a few of them, and so I feel like I'm qualified at this point to read this book. I of course have known about it for so long. I don't think you can be in the book scene and be interested in literature online without knowing about this book. It's just essential reading almost. This story intrigues me so much, and I've always known I wanted to read it at some point. I bought it. It's here. I can pick it up whenever I want to, and I'm so excited already. It's a dark academia story. Friends who study in a university, specifically, I think they study English literature. What I know is there's a lot of Shakespeare stuff in here. They're obsessed with Shakespeare. I love stories with references, especially if you've read the plays or the stories that are being referenced. I think that adds so much to the story, because it's like a story within a story, and if you've read the original work that's being referenced, it opens up a completely new way of understanding what the author is trying to tell you with their story. I cannot wait to see Shakespeare in this context of a story where I think someone gets murdered and someone is put on trial for the murder, but they might not have committed the murder. I'm very curious to see. It's gonna be probably one of the more engaging books I've ever read. That being said, we have another one. This is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a story famously narrated by Death. It's about the book burnings of Nazi Germany during the Second World War. And I'm pretty sure the book thief that's being referenced here is a little girl. And I think she's Jewish, and I think she's trying to save books from being burned, but I have no idea. That's just my assumptions. I've read quite a few works of literature about the Second World War. It's so important to educate yourself on those things and to interact with those kinds of stories. So yeah, that is The Book Thief. Next up, here we have 4 books again by the same author, which is Italo Calvino. I have heard too many good things about him not to pick him up. So first, let's get this one out of the way, because this is the one that everyone reads. It's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, of course, by Italo Calvino. I need to know what this is about. This is basically several books in one. It's about this man who tries to track down this book he started reading that wasn't finished. Like the wrong manuscript was put into the cover of the book he was actually planning on reading. And so he tries to track down the original book, but then that's the book he receives is another story entirely. And so he just keeps finding the wrong books, and it's a book about books, a book about readers. It's a very experimental book, a very lucid book. It's almost like it breaks the fourth wall, I've heard. I've heard it's quite complicated, but I love complicated books where you kind of have to engage your mind a bit and put a bit more effort into understanding what's going on. So I'm so excited to read this. But actually, the ones I'm even more excited about, oh, first of all, it's not here yet because that one was so hard to track down, but I did also buy Invisible Cities. I don't have the physical copy yet to show you, but I thought it would be fun to share that with you too, because that's what I'm so excited about as well. I don't really know anything about that one except that Marco Polo is in it in some way. I have no clue. It's probably also going to be a very experimental Italo Calvino, and I'm looking forward to that one too. So now we can get into the ones I'm actually trying to talk about. They're not in order because I have no idea about the order. I'm going to have to do some research on that still. I have here The Cloven Viscount by Italo Calvino, The Baron in the Trees, also by Italo Calvino, and finally The Non-Existent Knight. This, as far as I know, is a trilogy about a knight whose personality splits in half. And now these two halves of this person are going off on adventures. That's basically all I know. One of the descriptions compared it to Don Quixote. And if you know anything about me, then you know if Don Quixote is mentioned somewhere, I'm gonna pick up the book. It's just gonna have to happen. Don Quixote is one of my favorite books of all time, and I am obsessed with that story. And so these gave me such Don Quixote vibes, and then they were being described as Don Quixote-like. And so, of course, I had to. They're historical novels. You're on the battlefield for some. The Baron in the Trees is about this dude who just decides he's fed up with life, and so he decides he's gonna live in the trees now, which I find very relatable, and it's something I might do one day, who knows? You can't really have a dog in a tree though, that's gonna be a big problem for me, so maybe not. I also really want to have a cow, and that really cannot live on a tree, so I'm so excited about these. They're supposed to be quite funny. They're less popular. I've heard some controversial things looking into them, but they just fascinated me so much. And they are this mix of very experimental writing. They're surrealist, almost magical realism, but also very historically inspired. I'm gonna still try to look into how historically accurate they are, because they do take place on some battlefields of wars that actually happened. Perfect opportunity for me to do a bit of history research. I always like to have a bit of an excuse to do that. And yeah, these are probably honestly gonna be the ones I pick up first by Italo Calvino, because I'm just so incredibly interested in these. They sound like exactly the right thing for me. Also, quickly, because I did not talk about this one yet, I also bought Pet Sematary by Stephen King, because I always need at least one Stephen King to fall back to. Stephen King is sort of the author I read when I'm tired of reading. He is the one who I reward myself with after I've read a difficult book. At the moment, reading Ulysses, I always read Stephen King in the evening to sort of relax my brain a bit, because for Stephen King, you kind of can turn your brain off and just go on this journey where you don't have to really interpret into anything or do a lot of mental gymnastics or work. You can enjoy the story. And so Pet Sematary is the one I decided to buy. I don't know, it's supposed to be quite strange. The first line in the back says, "Sometimes dead is better." I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about this, and I like Stephen King so much, and this is one of the older Stephen Kings, and I've found out that I just tend to like his older books more. Wait, I still have one more. Speaking of Stephen King, you're gonna have to excuse me because all I have is the Dust Jacket, because this is the one I'm currently reading, the one I reward myself with after reading Ulysses for that day. This is Never Flinched by Stephen King. It's his new book. I'm currently in the middle of that one. I'm liking it so far. I'm liking it a lot. I'm not very far into it at all. It's his new one, and I see it everywhere. And of course, I'm gonna have to buy it then. It has to happen. I do need to know. And it does involve Holly from the Bill Hodges trilogy, and I really like Holly. So yeah, Never Flinch. Oh yeah, and also But this is also not here yet, and it's not going to be here for a long time still. But I did buy East of Eden as well. I need to read East of Eden very soon. I'm so interested in that one. And I read some quotes online recently, and I just needed to know. It's this family saga of 3 generations living in America. It's John Steinbeck. He apparently writes beautifully, and from the quotes I've seen, he does. I can confirm. So yeah, those were all of the books I bought. I hope you found some recommendations, and if you have anything to tell me about any of these books, I'm always so happy to exchange thoughts. That was my little book haul, the last one for now, promise. I now have to exercise some self-control from now on. With that, I am gonna love you and leave you, and I'm gonna see you very soon for my next video. I hope you have a very nice day. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm thinking about you either way. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being you, for loving books just like me. Thank you so much, and we'll see each other again very soon. Until then, bye-bye.